So welcome to Chapter 7. I thought I would first give you a brief overview of what's happening in Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is entitled Confidence Intervals, and so I want to just present the basic concept of confidence intervals. And so I typed a few things out that I wanted to go over with you. So with confidence intervals, the whole premise is that we want to know the value of a parameter. And if you remember what a parameter is from Chapter 1, that's a value obtained from surveying the entire population. But the problem with that is we want to know that parameter value, but it's not possible for us to survey the entire population. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use a sample of the population and calculate a statistic. That statistic is going to be our best guess. Now, our book calls it from time to time a point estimate. So if you ever hear the book refer to a point estimate, they're talking about the value that's coming out of the sample. And this best guess is more and more accurate as we have a larger and larger sample, which makes sense, right? As we talk to more and more people, we'll get a better predicted value of what the general population feels. Or as we weigh more and more quarters, we'll get a general idea of what the true average weight of quarters is. The problem though with statistics is that they're never ever perfect. Even if we have a large data set, if we're not talking to everybody, it can't be perfect, and therefore we'll always have error. Now what we expect is that as we talk to more and more people, that error will decrease. And so we'll have formulas that will have that come into play. So what a confidence interval is doing is it's establishing a range of values where we are confident that the true parameter lies in. It takes into account the best guess, the statistic, the point estimate, and applies the error and says, okay, this is the window of acceptable values. This is where I should be able to find the absolute true value if I were able to involve everybody in the population. And so right now we're dealing with politics. We have primary elections going on. We have a presidential general election happening later this year. And so if I focus on politics for a minute, some things that you hear from time to time is something like President Trump's approval rating. So let's talk about that. What we typically hear is one number, right? That President Trump's approval rating is maybe 49%. And what that means is with the individuals that they were able to talk to, 49% of them said that they approved of the job that President Trump was doing. The other 51% had a different opinion than that. Now, what they know is they didn't talk to everybody. I would imagine you didn't get a phone call about how you felt about it, but I know I didn't. So I'm part of the population that they're trying to describe, and I didn't get a phone call. And so this has an error. And oftentimes if you see an approval rating or a statistic in print, they'll tell you that not only is his approval rating 49%, but it has a margin of error of 5%. Other ways that they'll talk about the margin of error, they'll say that it's within 5% of the actual value. Now, what's the actual value? That's the actual approval rating of every person in the United States. Totally impossible to get. And so, therefore, this is the best that we can do. What a confidence interval does, I'll abbreviate it by CI. What a confidence interval does is takes the point estimate, the best guess, the sample value, the statistic, and applies the error. Now remember, an error could go either way. So we're 49% plus or minus 5%. So that means we get a low value of 44% and a high value of 54%. And what we're saying is that the true approval rating for President Trump lies somewhere within that interval. That true approval rating will have a letter P. So it actually is a capital P. It's hard for me to show that. But this capital P is the population proportion. Right? That P will sit right in the middle. And so we're saying the proportion of every American that is in favor of or that approves of what Donald Trump is doing is somewhere between 44% and 54%. That is the basics of a confidence interval, coming up with this range of values right here.